Well, hi, good evening, folks. Welcome to another edition of Airfix and Chill. We've got some great additions tonight that we have not seen for a while. We've got Matt from Model Minutes who's been able to join us. How are you, my friend?
Hello, I'm good. I've got a question. When did you change the intro? Because that was absolute cinema. That
It's good, isn't it? We must have had it for about 12 weeks now. It just shows you how many times you watch it then, Matt.
I'm so busy. I'm so busy. I unfortunately though managed to nip away for a short respite to come and join you guys this evening.
Yeah. Well, you like it, do you?
Oh yeah, it was a bit. It gives me like 1980s sitcom vibes, but yeah.
It's not a nice. No, what it was is that people keep telling me that they listen to Airfix and Chill, not on the night normally, but it's like a podcast during the day. They'll have it on in their car and stuff, not watching but listening. And you recognise the actual theme tune if I tell you exactly. I've not been copyright strike for it yet, but I've basically just nicked No's House Parties theme tune.
That's probably why we're going to see Mr. Blobby and get the guns tanked out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I've not been copyright striked on any of it. But I one night I was there and there's two versions and the credits for Airfix and Chill is the original Noah's House Party. Then I think in 1998 or something they changed it to that one that we have on the intro. Yeah. So I just robbed it basically off a TV theme CD and made that intro, and it gives it a little bit of fun, something that trying to find really upbeat and bouncy songs from the likes of Epidemic Sound is really, really hard. When I did years ago, do you remember I did a montage of all the kits that Airfix released that particular year? And I've never bettered that song that I used on that one because it fitted perfectly to when they announced the Tempest and things like that. But it's really hard. But finding something like that on screen is good, So that's it. So we also got Miss Modeler back. Nice to see you, Miss Modeler. How are you?
Hi, I'm alright. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. That noise has come back, Can you hear that drone in the comments? Can you just let us know in the chat? It comes and goes. We don't know what it is. My computer's not firing up or nothing because I've got a Mac. There's other fans. So, and then we've got Alex back. Nice to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm
Long
good, thanks.
time no see.
Yeah, been busy, but got a brief respite. So.
Oh, brilliant!
Are you have to shoot off to feed the dog, but
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we comes first anyway, doesn't it? So, just quickly, are you shifting pattern now? Because I see you doing a bit more Warhammer. Are you shifting the shop for Warhammer, or are you still going to stick it as a scale model shop?
We've had the Warhammer stuff in. I've just got the Foundation range. Had that in since February. I've just did a Warhammer Come and Try event at the weekend. Which just because there've been quite a few people coming in looking, there's nothing really in the area. So the Free Model Shop does a lot of bolt action and the kind of Warlord game stuff. But yeah, it's just another thing, and of course I still do the terrain and everything. So I had a bit of a shift around in February to give myself a bit more room. So I've actually got more kits than I had before for the modelling range, as well as the GW stuff now as well. So
fair play.
Hence it being busy.
Fair enough. We've lost Miss Modeler. Is she coming back? There she is there. Yeah. Right. And also John's return. Were you here last week, John? You were, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, you were here last week, so I wouldn't say hello to you because you just come back from China. Where the China virus.
2 weeks. Well.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Is it?
John had a great trip. Beautiful trip. Some would say the best trip ever.
Yeah.
China's a wonderful place. If you've not been there, you should have a go.
No thanks, mate. Well, that China virus comes from there. China virus. Anyway, we'll go there. Right. Going by everyone in the chat. Nice to see you all, and welcome along. We're going to talk tonight about, just starting off, just to get the debate going about manufacturers that aren't big, you know, we're talking about your clear props, your door rings. And I do a monthly roundup of new tooling every single month, you know, the first or second day. So I'll look back through ScaleMates and see what's been announced over that previous month. And there just seems to be a lot coming through from the what I call smaller manufacturers. I'm not going to class ICM as small because I think they've established themselves as quite a brand now. But yeah, AA models for a lot of Ukrainian stuff's coming through. The only issue I'm having is distinguishing between those that are 3D print and cast resin kits to those in, you know, with plastic injection molded kits. And I'm going to be honest here, if I see a subject matter and one is 3D printed cast whatever resin and one's injection molding, I'm going to pick that injection molding kit just because it's such an arse to put 3D stuff. I know people love 3D stuff and I get it. It's really good. You know, when 3D Gizmo, some of his stuff is fantastic, but super glue and me and resin, I find it harder work than Tamiya extra thin and some plastic.
The only time I would say that's not true, for myself, is if you get a limited run injection molded kit.
Yeah,
that can be a bit of an art. And I think these days they don't really seem to be around as much. The quality of injection molded is really high, but I know back in the 90s, like the old like Humor and Special Hobby to a degree, some of those kits were hard work, and actually resin kits and using super glue would probably be a relief.
I get that. I do get that. There's, you know, IBG. I think they're a bit more established than being a thing, but you know, my you know, from somebody who was focused on the Airfix, we're building, growing up, and even in my 30s, focusing on the Airfix, the Revell, the Tamiya, because it was available more easily in shops. I'm seeing a lot more now. My eyes have been opened to the likes of IBG, A&A models, for instance. I know, Matt, you built an AA model once, didn't you? Was it you that built? Was it something? Wasn't AA? Was it PM models?
Oh, PM. Yes, I've done a few PM model kits.
Yeah, but
they're interesting.
What a wonderful they are.
Why are they
hits?
So I built the Spitfire maybe 2 years ago, Spitfire Mark 5. That was just after Airfix had released their 5C, and technically PM bill it as a 5C, but it isn't a 5C. It's very crudely based off of a Mark 1. But it was like the old Frog Mark 1 from the 50s. So they basically upskilled that one. They changed it around. They added extra bits and pieces which are not accurate at all. The shape is off. So it's a very interesting model. If you want to experience something that looks kind of like a Spitfire and is incredibly simple to build, then absolutely go for the PM model one. But other than being a paint mule, it's not a serious model.
I mean, PM models are kind of great if you want an injection molded base to practice your scratch building skills, because they give you the absolute basic parts, don't they? There's usually no cockpit detail. There's no wheel wells often. I did the TA 183, the hook bind, and that is, I mean, it's probably about 50% plastic, 50% filler, I would say.
Yeah, you get a lot of practice with filler with PM model.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, just going back though, it's what about Jim in America? What do you get things? You know, one-off smaller companies coming along with models like we do over here from Europe, etc.
Yeah, they're you know, the one that comes to mind for me is classic airframes. Back, I want to say it was 90s or early 2000s. They did a line of different aircraft that the community needed, and it was limited run, and you got what you usually get with limited run, which was, you know, to be expected. Accurate miniatures. They started out, but they put out a higher quality product, I think, out the door.
Yeah,
from the
they
beginning.
were nice. They were a really nice kitchen then.
Yeah,
quite sought after as well now.
Very nice.
Well, they did sell some of their line to Academy. I'm not positive, but you can still
Yeah.
get some of their B25s and the Avengers and things like that.
Yeah.
But so it's hard to say that they were it's hard to compare them with the classic airframes, let's say.
Dan Usher's just said, wasn't IBG once described as a poor man's mini art? I find IBG over complex. I think they're more complex than mini art.
Yeah.
I've got a friend called Andy, and he builds fabulous models. And in recent times, the only kit he's ever thrown away was the IBG wrecker that he got. He told me, he said out of all the kit, I know I can press on, I will push through, but when it comes to that IBG wrecker, I just bin them. I've just bin them. Anyone's got any love for any birds? I've just got a few, like I said, AMP, they produce some nice stuff. I said clear prop door rings. Are there any others I'm missing out? Beacon's another one.
Channeling British model kit. Beacon they're working on new stuff. I speak to them on occasion. They've done their Spitfire and their 109, and they've recently just released loads. I've got them here actually. They've just released a load more Spitfires and 109s in different variants. So early Spitfires, later Mark II with the cannon is coming out or has come out, and then you've got the BF 109 E1 to 7. So they've done that. They are working on other 144th scale kits, but obviously it takes time because they're a small business. They also want to explore the model railway scene as well. So, I'm all for helping small companies and small businesses, especially when they make nice kits.
I'd suggest Kotare. I think we still count that as a small kit company, don't we?
Yeah, that's a small kit company, definitely. Nigel sent me Vespid he's done a review on this kit, and what I've seen on the on this video, I can't wait to get my hands on this and get it to bits and build it. Some of the detail in a 1/72 scale kit is absolutely it's outstanding, absolutely. And the fit, just if I just put myself on big screen a minute, just the fit looks absolutely fantastic. Look at the detail on that.
Shape looks right for it as well.
It does, Jagpanther. Yeah, it's absolutely Jagpanther. Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. Even underneath, you can see there's detail there, and the detail on the side there. It looks absolutely fantastic. I don't know how much you pay for it, to be honest. But there's
that, isn't it, Moss?
Yeah. But it comes with sprue after sprue after sprue for a 1/72 scale. Link tracks. I just and even it's got photo etch in it, bugger. I remember that in the video actually. But it comes with photo etch and a 3D printed brake as well. And it comes with
metal barrel.
Metal barrel as well. So
really?
It's these little companies. Are they because they're small? Do you feel that they're trying to make a bigger point against the big guys? Who
I think if you've got a smaller company, it allows you to specialize. I mean, look at Sokomura.
Yeah,
Sokomura have only made 24 tools in their lifetime. And they've been doing the SWS series for 10 years now.
Yeah.
But I mean, where else can you build a Horton HO229 with all of the internals? All of the wing spars and the framing and the engines, everything else. It's not for everybody, but it's very specialized. It's very good. They've just focused. So I think a small company can focus much more, whereas a big company, if you get bigger, you have to appeal to more people to shift more product to keep all of those people employed. So
there's a lot of competition to be the best, and smaller companies only have open to them the option to be the best, but certainly not to sell the most, because they can't support selling the most because of the very great distance between small companies and the large in terms of volume, which I'm sure Alex will know. So, I mean, Qatari, for example, is a very good example of a small kit company that has specialized in creating anatomically accurate kits at 132 scale, but also in producing a set of instructions that you would keep after you've completed the kit, because it's got so much in the way of interesting information, and it's a learning experience to discover, for example, in the cockpit of a Spitfire, that little tube that goes underneath the pilot's seat is in fact the gun heating duct, because they tell you this, you know.
Yeah.
So these are the areas where the small companies tend to really specialize, and I think that from a commercial perspective or from a buyer's perspective makes the build something of a pleasure and a discovery all rolled into one. There's value in that. It's absolutely value in that, you know. So I think that there's a real option for small companies to differentiate themselves very much from the big guys. That's not to say the big guys can't do these sort of things. They choose not to for various reasons.
Yeah.
Or they price themselves out of the market doing it.
Just quickly, Dan, the IBG Scammell Pioneer Wrecker, he built the 135th. It was the 172nd scale. He said it was, he just binned it. He gave up on it. And his first kit he's given up on in a very long time.
Yeah.
Pricing wise, though, they are a little bit more expensive, though, aren't they? The smaller companies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, as Jim said, the classic airframes kits were going for silly money, especially the Gannet over here.
Yeah,
Before Airfix saved us.
Yeah.
It's because quality and cost are related, I think. You know,
well, this was the thing. Let's talk about the Gannet. I know Airfix released their Gannet at this price point, and I remember Sword brought, is it the AEW version, didn't they? Not long after, and it came with all bells and whistles. It had resin, photo etch, and saying, "Oh, look at this kit!" You know, whoa. I've not seen anybody build one yet. I've had a couple of people who've said they've put it on the shelf because it does the fits crap on it. But you know, there's that as well. You know, you pays your money, you take your choice, and I think when it comes to things like Airfix and Revell and Tamiya Academy, a little bit of Trumpeter, they're pretty safe bets, aren't they? When you buy them, you know what you're going to be getting inside the box.
Yeah.
Is that not a fair comment? Well, I'm talking about newer stuff. I'm talking about the old stuff. Newer stuff. If it's Revell and you're building a diorama, you know, one of those, you know, it's Matchbox, and they, you know, the PK-71, that's bulletproof, isn't it? You know what I mean? That Sherman, you know, that tooling was made with iron that fills the bones of Wolverine, because that tooling never looks soft, does it? Do you know what I mean? And they must have launched that Matchbox Sherman so many times in different guises. But
that's that's the case with all Matchbox kits. You know, you'll find very little flash on any of their sprues, and they're 50-odd year old now.
Yeah.
The tools were probably made in such a way they were made in such a way that they'd last.
And made with good old Sheffield steel. That's what it is.
Exactly. And it was case hardened too.
Yeah, but even the plastic they used was a different compound, wasn't it? It's sort of brittle.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Part of the issue, you know, to blend it all together, I guess you could say, you got the big guys. They got all the money, they can do the kits, but to support that, they got to sell a boatload, so they can't do the real esoteric stuff. They're going to do the things that sell a lot of to feed the beast. Whereas your smaller companies are going to fill those niches of, you know, the real small one-offs, you know, that the big guys aren't going to do because the big guys aren't going to sell enough of those. So it's really almost two different markets where you've got big company, big production costs, big popular stuff, big sales. Smaller company, they're not going to make as many. They're not, so therefore they don't have the overhead. They don't have the research. They don't have the tooling capability. They don't have all the things that the big manufacturers So yeah, you're not going to expect the quality in the product, but you're going to have a model of the Fairy Fruit Bat Mark V, you know, and that you may want. So just, it's not buyer beware, but you're probably, I think, buyer have your expectations probably where they need to be.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not going to get, when you go buy that old classic airframes kit, you're not going to get a Tamiya kit.
Yeah, exactly. We heard last week that a couple of companies went bust, didn't they? Last week.
HPH.
Yeah.
What was that? Sorry, James?
HPH went.
Yeah, HPH went. And I would have them down as a small modelling company. Very expensive. And, allegedly, at Telford, somebody wanted to buy one of their kits, but they wouldn't take any sort of payment apart from cash. And it was 300 odd quid. You're not going to sell many kits at 300 odd quid cash at Telford.
How many?
Anyway, even getting the Wi-Fi to work is a bit of a nightmare, isn't it? So, somebody just said then, we're going back, that they built the sword and not a problem. That's fine. I've just, a lot of people have said that when, chalk and cheese when it comes to building the Airfix version and the sword version. But Sword are the only ones who do that AEW tooling, isn't it? So, which is I don't think Airfix missed a beat on that because there's not many they could build with the AEW body. That's why they concentrated on what they've released now. Which one was it? It was the COD, wasn't it? I'll put that down.
It was the hack one, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Hermes one, or Hermes.
It was like a cargo carrying version of it, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And also officers as well. They would put the officers in the back, wouldn't they? So you didn't need so many. You didn't need so many.
I mean, just on the HPH models piece, and we talked about smaller companies being expensive. You also have to look at subject, because if you look at the planes that HPH were making, they were making a big scale generally and big aircraft. I mean, a 148 scale B-52.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people that love the B-52, but who has the room for a 172nd B-52? Never mind about a 148. They did a 132nd scale BV-138, which is a big chunky flying boat. It's fairly niche. It's a weird, ugly tri-engine thing, So it's kind of, they have to do that, but it's still risky. As them going into receivership or administration or whatever it is.
Yeah, they did the Mirror, didn't they? The Antonov Mirror. Yeah.
I mean, they did. I think they did the. Was it a 48 scale Peacemaker they did as well? The B-36. Yes. I mean, that thing's. That thing's huge in 70. I mean, it was huge in real life, but
in real life,
Did Monogram build a 48 B-36 as well?
Yes, they did.
They did back in the day. Yeah,
a long time ago.
But just trying to think about
kind of a niche of a niche. If you're building a niche aircraft in a niche scale, that's quite a risky business strategy.
Yeah. I'm just looking through ScaleMates now, and the problem I'm finding is trying to work out what are injection molding kits and what are 3D resin. There's a company called Rare Birds. Rare Birds model in 1/72nd scale, and they seem to be producing. I don't even know how you would say that. Actually, where's the? Can I share that screen? Here we go. Share the screen a minute. At a stage, they're bringing out this beast in 1/72nd scale. Rare Birds models, 1/72nd. Look at that.
Yeah, it's a French flying boat.
That's got Ms. Modeler's name all over it.
That has, hasn't it? You're ordering that already, aren't you, Lexi?
But is it 3D print, or is that injection molded?
I'm literally doing a resin kit now. Like, It's just another skill. Once you've done one, they're not very hard.
Yeah.
If anything, resin is most of the time easier because it's lower part count, and it's just getting used to either using epoxy or super glue. But like they're not hard.
I wouldn't say they were hard. They just
It's change that we're not used to.
Yeah, it adds to the work level. That's all, because people aren't used to doing it.
It doesn't add to the work level for a lot of them. Like modern resin kits are like easy. Like this kit was like 4 parts, plus then like landing gear and seats. But it was easier than the last limited run injection kit I did. Like, it was one of the easiest kits I've ever done.
Is it brittle though?
For what parts?
I always find resin stuff very brittle, and having to cut it out and sand it down.
I think sometimes it depends on the kind of resin, because some people can make stuff with relatively hard, dense resin. I've never experienced the cast resin, but obviously with 3D printing that I've done quite a bit, you can get different sort of grades, and typically you'll want to go for something more dense. But if you go for the cheap resin, that tends to be a little bit more flaky and brittle and will sort of shatter. I've done it myself. I've dropped like one part which was made with one resin, and the exact same in another kind of resin, and one of them shattered and the other one didn't. So it depends on the type of resin. I think if you have a cheap manufacturer, the cottage kind of industry making these resin kits, and they use a cheap resin, keep costs down, then yes, you're probably going to have problems. But if you go for a more reputable company, they'll probably have better quality resin.
Which is just the same as like some of the cheap plastic model kits that are absolutely horrendous quality. Like, it's the same in every single industry. And I think like just writing off resin because it can be something, well then if you do a Mr. Craft model kit, you might as well write off all of plastic as well then.
Who's done a Mr. Craft kit?
That's a good show. I'm building this forklift here from I think it's called Royal Models. Comes with photo, like when it's done. But I've had an awful time with it. I slipped off one part carefully, cut it down, and I sanded it back. And as I went to put it onto the part, and I only had it in my tweezers, just to gently put it in, bang, snap. It was like, you are. The flexibility that you have with the plastic just not there. It's like it's rock hard, and it just broke. And I was like, so I'm gonna have to contact them and say, I broke it, but can you send me over some more parts?
I think cast resin is usually the more brittle one. 3D printing.
Lexing's got a point, because a lot of the time it's just learning how to handle it. I had a similar issue when I was building a Vallum kit, and the part just snapped in half when I was trying to cut it off the block.
Yeah.
And it must have been because I wasn't used to handling it.
Yeah. Richard
they
Leo.
do require a lot of different skills. So this is I don't know if you can see that. I think it's called Alizan. I don't think you can actually see. Oh, there we go.
Oh yeah, you can just.
So these are mixed media 1/43 scale parkets.
Yeah.
So I got these that I'm doing for somebody in the shop. And just to give you an idea, these are all the internals in this little bag.
Yeah.
That includes vac-formed lights on the front of the car, rubber tires. You get sheets of plastic to make the windscreen and stuff from. They're challenging.
That is the only thing I would say people have an excuse to complain about is vacuum canopies, because they are hard.
But like this is for instance, this is the frame, and if you can see that, you've got to cut around that. Now the first one I cut around, I got to about halfway around, and it just snapped, bang. I wasn't putting any pressure on it. I was just gently scraping it, and it snapped on me. And I paid £50 for this kit, and so I am a little bit knocked about it that it just. Even I've had to, even the forks, I'm saying, you must be doing it wrong, No, I'm not. You know,
No.
I'm being serious here. I'm pushing hard here, and these were even longer to about there. But as soon as I was trying to cut them off the block, so the first one I cut using my this beautiful knife here called the Hypercut saw. This one here. Which I got from Italy actually. A company in Italy or Spain was selling them. It was a Chinese company. And I cut through, and it just broke. You know, it just split at the end. I was like, oh, so I cut that one down, and the next one I sanded it, and as I was sanding off the block, it kind of snapped as well. So, I do get it. I do understand that maybe
my only recommendation with the sort of resins that you're working with, like Moz, is to use a wet blade.
Yeah,
that's a good shout. Yeah.
I remember talking to Nigel as well. Nigel said, "Let the blade do all the work. Don't hard."
And that's what I did. I did.
Yeah, that's what I did as well.
I've tried that. It doesn't work. If you just leave your knife next to the part, I came back the next day. It was still there.
Still there.
Like, go on then, do it.
You haven't trained it well enough, have you?
Obviously not.
Question: I've just built an AFV kit. Never heard of them, but the kit was great. AFV do some good stuff.
Yeah.
Armor wise.
Yeah, they do. They are a bit limited run, the feel of the sprues and everything, but they do do a nice kit. Yeah, you're right.
Is that AFV Club? Is it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've just done one of their kits as well. Hang on.
Which one?
I'll just reach over. Like you need to guess.
Ah.
Little P40.
Oh, P40.
Is that 144?
144th scale, yeah. That was
They do a really nice Corsair as well. You know, the F4U.
Bit pricey though for a tiny little plastic kit like that. Nice. But it was quite nice to build. It almost snaps together.
Yeah. I see Nigel's in the house. Hi Nigel, you want to pop in? You can pop in at some point. You're quite welcome to. I think Nigel got a company called Verifier. He did a review on something.
He's done a lot of ships.
They do a lot of ships. I've got a couple of Verifier in the shop now.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the issue, I think, with some of the like smaller companies like Verifier, like Gecko, like Zakimura and stuff, is distribution. So sometimes it can be difficult for those companies to get the reach because obviously they have to go through importers and wholesalers and stuff, whereas bigger companies you often deal with directly.
Zakimura is not cheap either, though, is it?
No.
It's actually not as bad as you think.
Okay.
So it depends, obviously, what it is. If it's not one that's currently in production or currently in production,
HO229, it's a lot of money, but you get a lot of sprues. An awful lot of sprues.
I think that Shiden is like £40, something like that, which is like a mini art P47. So one's chunky and one has all the insides. It's pays your money, it takes your choice, I guess.
That's a good shout. Yeah, I understand that. Nigel, I was thinking about the Bow and Paul Defiant you've got in 3D resin. Yeah, that was another company that he's got. Defiant. Aeroscale, yeah.
Airscale, not Aeroscale.
No.
So Airscale.
Yeah, Airscale, yeah.
Airscale,
Aeroscale vac form.
No, Aeroscale do a lot of the undercarriage parts in brass.
Oh yes, and they
just released the would-be RAF Supersonic Mach 1 plane, didn't they? The Miles.
Not the M52?
M52, yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
They do a lot of photo etch styles and stuff, don't they?
Yeah.
You've built one, haven't you, Sully?
I've used their stuff, but I've not built one of the kits yet.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
I'm just saying if I've got the 300 quid for the Defiant, I really want to do it, but 200 something quid, 250.
Yeah, I think it's Air Model actually that do the vac form kits, isn't it? Not Air Model.
Air Model. See, that's a kit. I had it. I did. Many years ago, I had a vac form kit. Looked at it in the box, put it back in the box, put it back on the shelf, and then look at it again.
Well, the thing is, once you've got all the parts, they're not too bad. It's getting the parts to that point.
Yeah, there's a lot of sanding, isn't it, and stuff.
It's a lot of sanding.
Incredible.
Yeah, and you can't really shortcut it because as soon as you try and shortcut it, you end up cutting into like the thinner parts and ruining things.
Yeah, I get that indeed. Clear props is another one that I think look fantastic when I see them.
Yeah.
The instructions are a bit hit or miss. But that's what I mean. There's some instructions that are just perfect, and there are those that look like they've been drawn by Winnie the Pooh. You know what I mean? It's that. It's like, you know.
Or there's those masks that look perfect and are completely wrong, like border models.
Yeah.
Border models.
Yeah.
Or mini art.
Would you say
actively direct you to do the wrong thing?
Would you say Tacken was a small company? I don't think they are. They're quite big now, aren't they, Tacken?
Yeah.
I think Tacken are getting bigger. I mean, the thing is, they're very new. But can you call any of the Chinese manufacturers small, really? Because they start big generally.
Yeah.
You know, they kind of like drop onto the market already, probably with a big factory, you know, probably government subsidized or whatever. And that's not quite the same as the markets in Japan and, you know, the rest of Southeast Asia and the West. So
I wouldn't say Gecko were a small company now. I would have them as getting up there, you know. And also these smaller companies, and I think Jim rightly said, you know, they take the risk, don't they?
Yeah.
They see a subject and they go for it. The other big companies wouldn't.
I think they're looking for the niche, aren't they, to make that difference?
But it's you know, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I've got that door of rings up there, which I must get down and have a look at proper, and have a go at building it. And then you've got some they've got too big for their boots as well, I think.
Which door of wings have you got, Moz?
Pardon?
Which door of wings have you got?
I've got the Ferry Delta 2.
Yeah.
Oh yes, that looks good.
Yeah.
I built the 89 Jeep and I wasn't impressed.
You wasn't?
Nah, it's a slightly older tooling, and everyone goes, "Oh, but you know, they're limited run, so you can't expect the world from them." And I'm like, "No, you can't expect the world, but you could also expect a kit that fits together."
They've improved a lot over the last few years.
I hope so. I've got the Vanguard to do as well, and I hope that one's much better.
No, I built the Lancer.
Yeah.
By Dora Wings, the 148th Lancer, and it did go together well. It did take a little bit of fighting.
Yeah.
I'm somewhat baffled why the hell they missed out all the exhaust system on the engine.
Yeah. Travis,
Armour.
Oh,
Jim?
89 Jeep.
Oh, wow, look at that thing.
Yeah.
Armour Hobby aren't that small, though.
Yeah, 89 was no good.
They're growing, they're getting bigger, but they do break the stereotype of a smaller company that, like a classic airframes or whatever back in the day, and they weren't putting out there. You know, they're doing stuff that's just not big runs, and you know, fit issues are going to be there. Arma, I think they said, well, we're going to try to make a quality high-end product, even though we are the small guy. And we're going to build that niche small stuff with quality product. You know, they kind of marry the two together, which would say great for them. It's not my scale, but man, I'm happy for the 72nd scale builders, because I mean, they've got, you know, quality and now things.
Have you seen with Armour Hobby that when you buy some of their products, you get a free download for a 3D printable part, and you can print that at home as an upgrade to what they included in the kit?
Yeah.
How cool is that?
That's a good idea.
I've been saying that for years. Why has this not happened? And then they've done it.
Jim Brooks made a good point there, because I remember when we did the review on it, the Delta, The P parts, wasn't it? Was it the pitot tube or something? Was really tiny.
Yeah.
And Jim Brooks just said then, I built the Dora Wings Delta, and that was again a good build, except for the PE, which I remade in styrene sheet.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that it was tiny; it was made up of multiple parts as well, which was,
yeah, because they had the weather vanes on it, didn't they?
Yeah, and I think each was separate.
See, armor was it armor that sort of offered out in a 1/72nd scale P51D Mustang, and apparently it looked phenomenal on the releases that we've seen so far. And they've also announced the ME2628 Schwalbe. That's how you say it, isn't it? In 176.
I will say this: I've got the kit for the P51C in 1/72nd scale, and I've got the one for the Yak 3, and both kits look absolutely gorgeous.
I guess I mean, part of the question, I guess, is what is a small company? You know, is it a niche company? Like, I mean, if you look at like Gecko, we just mentioned, I mean, their most recent release, I think they did a set of 4 Vietnamese like bikes and scooters, which is pretty obscure. You know, great if you're doing a Vietnam diorama.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it doesn't have an awful lot of use. You know, some of the stuff that some of the other companies does, you know, like Dora Wings, you know, again, fairly obscure and niche stuff. Whereas small company doing a Schwalbe, you know, an ME262, it's a very heavily represented aircraft, especially considering how long it operated for.
Would you say a benchmark for a small company would be like Wings?
No.
Because they're not a big company, are they?
Well, they're not a company anymore.
No, they're not a company anymore, but that's the company when they were set up. They weren't massive.
Well, how many kits have Armour Hobby brought out? Because I was just saying, you know, has anybody built the new Curtis that they brought out, the H75, the A182?
It was on my wish list, but I just can't justify buying more kits at the moment.
No, but what price are they though? That's what. Oh, they're 22. See, 22
not
quid's
bad.
not far off the mark, is it? Is it? You know,
for a small run kit, but it's got downloadable parts as well. No, it's a.
I wouldn't have them down as a small run. I don't think. I think they'll keep producing that and adding different schemes. The one thing I like about Armour Hobby is that they do have a cutout, a call out on how you can cut out your masks in the instructions, which is a pretty good one. Built one of the Armour Hurricanes, one of the best, if not the best, in 1/72nd scale. But this year they've got the Hurricane Mark 2C in 148. Oh, it's 148, is it? Wow, okay.
Oh, nice.
They've done the P39Q Aerocobra in 148, and they've done the Nakayima KI43 Mark II Hayabusa. Anybody built them at all? Let me know in the comments.
I mean, if you're going to make a 148 scale Aircobra, I mean, or the Hurricane, or whatever, then as a small company, it does need to be very high quality, doesn't it? Because I mean, the Edward one, you know, is what, $16.99, something like that. 48 scale Aircobra, it's pretty good. So you've got to go beyond that really to have your market, haven't you?
Yeah.
Same with the Hurricane. I mean, it's a very commonly kitted one, but a lot of the kits have issues. But like Qatari have showed, if you can produce like the most accurate or, you know, most detailed or whatever it is, it has to have something. It has to have some, I hate to use it, but unique selling feature. You know?
Yeah, well, I think with the Aerocobra, they got clever with the making sure it's not a tail sitter.
Yeah.
With a nose weight.
Just little things like that. You know, it's just like you built it and it includes a nose weight. I mean, that impressed me when Tamiya did that with the 148 scale HE219. You know, do it with the P38 as well, so that it's just one of those extra things that you just think, yeah, that's great. I didn't have to do it. It gives you a good positive experience, and then you're more likely to buy another one, aren't you? So if you have a good experience with a Armour kit, you're more likely to buy their new release.
Just looking at the scale mates for Armour Hobby, they've actually got 112 releases under their belt.
Yeah.
91 70-second scales, 148. The only thing I can't see is
So about 25 new tools, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find because the
sorry about
been
who was.
26 new tools but they've been around since looks like I'm just looking at it again. So they started back in 2014. So they've been in the game 10 years and they've brought out 26. That's 2 a year.
I mean, that's
not
good,
bad, is it?
solid, sensible growth, isn't it? That's what you want to see from a small company. You don't really want to see them start, produce 20 kits, and then next year there's nothing because they spent all the money and they're probably going to go out of business.
Yeah.
Whereas making 116 releases from 26 tools is smart. Good. It shows good business sense. Again, you want that because you want them to keep making kits.
Yeah. And they also have done the pattern like Airfix. So in 2019, they released the Hurricane Mark II-C in 1/72nd scale, and then 2023, 4 years later, they ping out a 148, exactly the same.
Yeah, I think the 148th one was on the cards a few years before.
Oh right, okay.
But then a certain virus got in the way.
But they got the what's the difference? What is the complete right? So I know Hurricane looking at them, right? She got the Mark 1 and they released that in 2018 as a new tool.
Yeah.
Then they did a new tool, Mark II-C. So what would be the difference and bring out? So they would bring out two separate toolings.
Wing for the armament.
Yeah, the main difference is the twin cannons in each wing.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you just retool the wings like Airfix would have done? Kept the fuselage the same, but then put the wing because the Hurricane fuselage is the same between Mark 1 and the Mark 2, isn't it?
No, there may have been changes made between in the fuselages between the early Marks and the later ones.
You've also got to remember that the early Mark 1s had wooden wings. They were different, completely different.
Yeah. I mean, Mark 1 Spitfires were different.
Hang on, let Tinzan speak. Go on, Tinzan, say what you're saying.
The Mark 1, for example, Mark 1 Spitfires and Mark 2s were different in the sense that I think the Mark 2 had a Cofton starter, so there was a different side panel on the port side.
Yeah.
And it was a similar sort of thing with the Hurricanes as well. The other difference, as has been pointed out on the Hurricanes, is the wings. The original Mark 1s had fabric covered ailerons, and the later ones had metal, aluminium ailerons that prevented aileron reversal and things like this.
The fuselage, the fuselage in the Mark II was longer as well. So
was it? Oh right, okay. I thought they were the same.
I think because of the Hispanos, it changed the center of balance, center of gravity, so they had to.
Yeah.
A bit like they chucked the fillet in the 109 to make the D because the center of gravity changed.
Yeah.
Yes, please, Hobby Time. You've got my address. Do that for me, my friend, and I'll do a video on it.
I'll give you my little 2 pennies worth as the Hurricane.
Yeah.
Hawker had a habit of changing things as they went along.
It's a British company, of course.
Because Mark 1s had metal wings.
Not all of them. The early ones were wooden.
No, early ones did have metal wings, but then they were swapped. When they went back to the ATC, they were swapped.
Ah.
Well, I think you need to reassess that.
Hang on a minute. Hobby Time saying Mark 1 early Hurricane had all fabric wings.
Yes.
Yeah, they were wood. They were made of wood.
They weren't woods. They were still metal. It was only fuselage that was ever wood. The skin.
The rear section of the fuselage was wooden struts.
Yeah, that was but the wing structure on the early Mark 1s were still metal.
I love a debate like this, isn't it? Isn't it?
To be fair, the only thing that changed, the only thing that actually changed in the Hurricane was the weapon base for the cannon.
Mm-hmm.
The fuselage and everything, nothing changed.
Yeah.
The only other add-on they had was metal plates above, sort of between the cockpit and the exhaust, which was for the night fighters to anti-glare panels.
Yeah. So there you go. There's an example of a company. As I said, they've got these twins. The they've got the P51D Mustang, which hasn't been released yet. I don't think. I think that's still a future project. Just looking on here, if I can I share this screen? This is their latest. This is the last picture I've seen. That doesn't look too bad, to be honest. And looking like that, you've got. I think this is a great way of releasing a product. By the way, where they show you
different versions,
all the different versions.
Yeah.
So you can see there, you've got the two different props, canopy. Looks like you're getting two different tails there, doesn't it? There's one on there and one off. I don't know.
No, you get multiple.
Different exhausts as well, isn't it? They're different exhausts.
Can the tail wheel be raised? That's the main question.
That's
the tail wheel up. Why is it with P51 kits that the manufacturers think it's perfectly okay to raise the main gear but not the tail wheel?
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same on the P51C by Tamiya. They don't raise it.
But I'm a hobby, as you can see here. They've done quite a few Mustangs. So they reboxed it 24. Was it new parts? So there it is. So there's supposed to be out new tool, but it's not been released yet. Apparently, it's not been released. I can't see any for sale. Anyway, no, none for sale. But you know when you buy that, that's going to be a pretty nice kit, I reckon. You know. In that respect, I think they all change old wings out of servicing, so it all blends in.
Yeah.
Travis, was that the 1 and the 1A though? What's he saying there? By the Battle of Britain, they were metal. By the Battle of Britain, he's claiming.
There were still a few Hurricane Mark ones with a wooden wing in the Battle of Britain.
Yeah,
the way Hawker worked.
Yeah.
They would basically, obviously in the production line, so they have a brainwave in it, say, oh, we'll do it metal. Build the wing metal, and they send them out to the aircraft ATC units, and then they'd retrofit them onto the planes.
Yeah.
And the Hurricane fuselage of the Mark II was longer, but it was at the front. It was exactly the same as they did with the Spitfire Mark IX.
Yeah.
It had to be 4 inches longer to accommodate the 20 Series Merlin.
Yeah, big Merlin, longer Merlin engine.
Which most a lot of manufacturers in 1/72 scale probably wouldn't bother with. They'll just put the same one and say it's good enough. Whereas again, niche manufacturer, maybe they're thinking, well, we need it to be super accurate, so we're going to completely retool that fuselage.
The other good thing about going back to Armour Hobby, just reading this, is they also have the different sets, don't they? They have the beginner set and they have the expert set, don't they? This one here looks like it's an expert set because it's got the photo etch there, masking, some decent roundels there. Not many have done this one, have they? The KI-80. I can't remember many manufacturers doing a KI-84.
Frank.
The Frank.
I think almost every Japanese manufacturer have, but it was like ages ago, like 80s, 90s. So,
so look at the history. Look at that. The Hasegawa Sword have done one. Not really, to be fair. Looks like just Hasegawa. Let's go back a bit. Tamiya did one. Ravel's done one.
Ravel did one as well, yeah.
What did Tamiya rebox then? Tamiya's done their own, have they? Yeah, 1964, that. Yeah. So Ravel's, all these, so they've seen a little gap for themselves and have gone for it, haven't they? Looks like. Hasegawa's the latest one.
Really, anything that was tooled before like the 90s, I mean, the technology has completely changed in terms of the design and the creation of tools.
Yeah.
So the accuracy and the precision that you can get now, because of the computer automation of things, is so much greater. So you can really discount almost anything before the 80s in terms of the accuracy and detail difference. And I think that's probably where a lot of the smaller manufacturers do see that opportunity.
Yeah,
because there must be quite a lot of aircraft that have plenty of representation, but it was probably pre-90s.
Definitely. Sorry there, Luke. How long have you been there waiting?
Oh, about an hour. No.
Oh, no, normally I ring you when I'm waiting to jump in.
Only about 60 seconds, mate.
Oh, that's right then. I see Sully just buggered off, and then I thought, oh, hang on, I see Luke's going to replace him.
Sorry. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to drop out. This is no reflection on you, Luke, but unfortunately, family activities are calling, so I'm going to have to drop out as well.
I just appreciate you coming on for an hour, Matt.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Nice to see you, Matt.
Yeah, it's good to see you, mate.
Catch you again. Books to his kids.
Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye.
Take care, mate. Bye-bye. Yeah. We need Nigel in now to get us back to our 9. We need Nigel in to get us back to our 9. We're just talking really, Luke, about the smaller manufacturers, and because you've built, because of your, what can I say, your favourite subjects, you've had to go down like the 3D resin route, haven't you, for some of these subjects? But one thing I'm trying to say is that it's very difficult to find companies on scale mates that are small that we can tell the difference between an injection molded kit and a resin kit. But you've gone for smaller scale stuff because, as in small scale, as in what the manufacturers are doing, because your subject matter doesn't get covered as well. And one of the biggest companies that you were probably using is now gone.
Yeah.
What's it, Accurate Armor, isn't it?
Accurate Armor,
So, it's
I think as long as people understand, firstly, you're going to pay a premium for more, I wouldn't say specialized subjects, but more unusual subjects. You are always going to pay a premium for that because they sell less.
Yeah.
And their research and their manufacturing process is very different to mainstream. Like the Saxon I'm working on currently, that's a very different thing.
Yeah.
To a Spitfire. The audience and the demographic that they're going to sell those to is a lot less. So therefore, the cost for them to manufacture them, to research the vehicle, to design it in CAD and everything else that goes with it, generally it's a one-man band or a two-man operation. Yeah. It's not these big companies, so you're always going to pay a premium. And also, from a consumer's point of view, you need to understand that these aren't mainstream injection molded kits. They're not going to go together like a new tool Airfix kit. They're not. They're going to test you. And your biggest thing is having the right tools to do the job. That's the biggest thing. It's not down to skill level. It's down to having the right tools, the right glue, the right. That's what makes the difference and makes it a pleasurable experience rather than headache.
Miss Bodley, you having to go now, are you?
Yeah.
Nice to see you. You're muted.
Nice to see you as well. Sorry, yeah, I got to go watch a film with my partner, but
okay.
See you later, guys.
Okay, bye.
Have a great month.
Do you feel then that with these smaller manufacturers, say that Saxon, is it a very accurate model, or could they have gone better with it? Is accurate, is it?
It's pretty much, I think, having been around Saxons a lot.
Yeah.
I can't speak. They do two versions basically. They do the one I'm doing, which is what the car builders would refer to as like a curbside kit, and they do one with a full interior. I can't speak for the one with full interior because that's not the one I'm doing.
Okay.
But from an exterior detail point of view, it's pretty much there. There's very little missing.
I think a lot of that, though, I mean, and it kind of goes back to the wing nut wings thing, is I think a lot of smaller manufacturers, they have a real passion for what they're doing. And because they tend to be focused on, a certain type of subject or a certain genre or a certain period in history, which they're passionate about. And that's what the small companies started at. And some of the bigger companies started off that way, and maybe they lost their way and just became big corporate operations or whatever. But they also, got into mass manufacturing and all that kind of stuff. But because these are passion projects of a lot of people. Border models, I think. Not border models. What's the one that? Is it border models? No.
Which one? Well, yeah, but...
The one that do the 144 scale
beacon models.
Beacon models. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, not border models who produce horribly inaccurate instructions. That's why it was burned on my mind. Yeah, Beacon. Are really passionate about their scale and the amount of detail they've crammed into those tiny aircraft is phenomenal. Which you're not going to get if Airfix make a 144 scale kit because they have different priorities. So I think that is a big part of it. And sometimes you'll see that drop off if a company changes hands. If that owner or group of people sell that company, sometimes you see the companies then getting bigger, but perhaps losing the special element, that special thing that makes them desirable.
They're almost like artisan manufacturers.
Yeah, that's a great word. That is that's spot on, Luke. To be fair, that's the word before.
Like Alex has said, once they gain, at the end of the day, it is a business. So once they gain it, or should they gain popularity, and then they're making more money, sooner or later, the bigger manufacturer is going to start taking notice. And they're going to either want to buy it or they're going to want a significant investment, which then takes away, in a lot of cases, it takes away that artisan element.
I mean, look at Games Workshop. They started off as 4 guys from Nottingham who didn't want to work for other people.
Selling stuff out the back of a van, casting themselves in white metal.
Now they're the biggest games company in the world.
Warlord Games. Starts off. Now they've got some sort of push now with the Hornby. Hornby have bought into. Hornby have allegedly seen something. I don't know what they've seen in them, because what I've seen so far, after talking to Matt and Jadlam, me and Nigel will be looking into him this week as well. Just having odd chats about it. It's all Italy reboxes. That 156 scale tank from Warlord. They don't own any toilet, and their latest release is resin and white metal.
Yeah.
So why would you do? This is what I was trying to get at. Was that I'm seeing on? What came up? The idea of the debate came up. Well, not debate, was chat about it. Was on Scalemates. There's loads of releases in the last 6 months, and when you go looking deep, you couldn't tell whether it's injection molded or resin. But why would I build a Warlord resin kit of a tank or a vehicle when Rubicon has done it in injection molded, and it'll probably, it will be
better. Yeah, it will be.
Yeah,
it's a really interesting question, Ross.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, carry on.
So I can kind of speak for Rubicon, so I've done stuff for them in the past, press shots and that sort of stuff. Rubicon made a decision probably about 5 or 6 years ago that although predominantly they are always going to be a manufacturer that targets tabletop wargamers. That's their primary source of income. However, what they did realize is they developed a formula for producing their kits and producing their instructions and everything else that appealed to the model making community.
Yeah.
And that's why you'll see Rubicon at shows like Telford. You'll see them at all sorts of model shows that aren't wargaming shows. You'll see them at every wargaming show, but you'll see them at model shows. Warlord Games target their products to the gaming community, not the model making community. And the gaming community aren't always that interested in, is this detail accurate? Is this, what they want is something they can get together pretty quickly with minimal effort, put some paint on it, minimal effort, put it on the tabletop and game with it. We look at these kits in a very different way because we're model makers.
There's also a part which I found really interesting since getting the Games Workshop stuff in the store, because people come in and say, "Oh, have you got I don't know, dog arse brown or whatever the Games Workshop color is?" And I only have the foundation paints in because I don't stock the Games Workshop paints because they're not really they're not that great. And most of the models, like the Games Workshop people, will take that and it completely ignore it. I'll say I've got different paints, better paints and stuff. To them, it doesn't matter because it's not Games Workshop paint. They're not used to it. It's not in the Games Workshop mantra of like, oh, you do this, then you put your Retributor armor on, then you do the Reikland flesh. Because it's not got that name, they kind of have these real blinkers on.
Yeah.
So you could almost put like Space Marines in a box from Airfix and call them, I don't know, Star Soldiers, and they wouldn't buy them. It's a very the mentality of the gaming industry is very, very much different. Like Luke said,
there's a very strong brand loyalty,
brand power,
very strong, and
which is alien to us tarts, of course.
Absolutely. And so, like with paints and stuff, so Games Workshop have, over the last 20, 30 years probably, they have embraced social media in such a way. So they have a thing called Warhammer TV, which is a subscription YouTube channel, essentially. That's what it is. But when they release a kit or they pick an older kit or whatever, they will only use Citadel products to paint that live, or they'll do a video of how you paint it. And it's all their studio painters that are doing it.
Yeah.
And so people automatically assume, and wrongly a lot of the time, that if they buy the Citadel color and they use a Citadel brush and they use Citadel methodology and all that stuff, that theirs will look like the studio painters that are painted on Warhammer. It won't.
No.
There's a reason they're studio painters. But that's the thing. So they could, and it's a one-stop shop almost, or a one-stop brand, isn't it? Because they can buy the kit, and on the back of the box, I've got loads of boxes there. It'll tell you every color that they've used on the box art in Citadel. It will tell you what Citadel brushes they've used. You can pay £6 a month and watch people paint that kit on Warhammer TV using Citadel. So they've got this whole train of income that, as model makers, I bet, how many of us here? 7. I bet every single one of us uses a different brand of paint.
Yeah.
So to
But if you look
demonstrate
at the gaming community and you go into a Games Workshop store on a Saturday afternoon, everyone will be using Citadel.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I think Vallejo are in the game now, aren't they, with their game colours?
Not really.
No?
Well, okay,
No,
you'll
no,
get
no,
a small percentage, but it will be the people, let's say, more akin to our ages, who've probably been in the game a bit longer and kind of understand that. But if you look at the core market, which is anybody from sort of 12 till, upwards, but that's when they want to get them. They want to get them as, young teens to to people going to university and stuff. Capture people then, play it with your friends. It's a social game, for nerds. You can all do something together. But just to give you what Luke's talking about as well in terms of brand loyalty. You see this, that little piece of metal there?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a Games Workshop seam scraper. It's a piece of stamped machined metal, right? They do a version of this which has a wooden handle. That's the only difference. It's 14 quid. Well, actually, this isn't a great example. It's not actually a bad tool.
That's not being funny.
£14. They do these.
Not being funny, that seam scraper, it looks like something we used to have in the aircraft industry for measuring the length of rivets.
Yeah. They do these nippers. These
there you
are.
go. That's the seam scraper.
That's what I've got. That's what I was looking for, Luke. I couldn't find it. I paid a megabucks for that.
Yeah, and there are the nippers.
Yeah, and these are ones that you get in their sets.
These are shite. Right, I will tell you, I did a review of these against everything other. Firstly, look how fucking wide they go. You
Yeah,
try and pick them up with one hand. I've got big hands, right? I tell you, big hands, big feet. But trying to pick these up is an absolute ball ache.
And
they're
they're heavy.
slippery. They are so slippery.
Absolutely.
And they were £27.
Yeah. For
Well,
which
these are a bargain, Moss. You get this
pair of those.
and this little one, and you get a brush and some paints, and it's only £25.
Wow.
And people buy those because it's, oh wow, it's so much cheaper. These are, I would argue, not as good as the light ones that you can pick up for £3 from basically anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, good God, you could make this from a piece of Coke can or bean can or something.
Yeah. I mean, this one, I think this is about, it's certainly more expensive than the Display one.
Yeah.
I've had this for years, so I don't know how much I paid for it.
It's good. That's quite good.
It's certainly more expensive than the Display one, and the Display one is streets ahead of this.
Yeah.
But it's got Citadel font on the side, so people will buy it.
But it's kind of like the 80s when if you had trainers, they had to be Nikes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go on, Jim.
Think about this. So, yeah, I've got the same pair, right? Now, Citadel makes paints, makes this kind of stuff to do what? Help the modeler build game pieces. Now, I've only built one game piece, and that was the Warhammer Knight.
Yeah, Imperial Knight, yeah.
I have never in my life seen gates and sprue attachment points as thick and bulky as those were on that model.
Yep.
These come in pretty damn handy when you're doing on that kind of stuff. And that's probably what these things were made for in truth, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I've said that. If you were going to build a Tacom kit, is it Tacom?
Yeah.
Tacom, same style, but at least they're smaller. Warhammer, they're like ginormous. You're just
Tacom are snip killers.
Yeah. But these are double-edged as well, aren't they? They're not single-edged, they're double-edged, aren't they?
Double-edged, yeah.
So they will wear down quicker than a single-edged one.
Because not being funny, £27 for those snips. I can buy a decent pair of Gilbos for £27.
But the thing, but these will wear down quicker because you're going edge to edge.
And Alex is absolutely right, and Jim's right. Citadel, Games Workshop, Warhammer, they're all the same company essentially. They're all under the same umbrella. They don't give a shit whether you can go and buy display nippers or display panel line scrapers or whatever, because they are so good at brand loyalty.
Yeah.
And most people, not everyone, but most people will only ever buy something if it's got Citadel on it, whether it be a paint, a tool, glue, whatever. They just won't deviate. And a lot of that is because, like you say, Miles, a lot of painters of this stuff will use things like Vallejo, Scale 75, but
Army
you
painter.
will never, ever, ever see anything on Warhammer TV that isn't Citadel. You'll never see it. And I would argue, and I'll get shut down in flames probably by the chat, but I would argue that a lot of that, if you look closely at some of their studio painted pieces, particularly at Warhammer World, where their exhibition center is, which is amazing. I recommend anyone to go. It's amazing. But I would argue that a lot of that stuff has been airbrushed.
Yeah.
But guess what? Citadel don't sell airbrush kits. So
there are so many channels. There are so many channels on YouTube who have, mini painters. I think Ninjon's actually done this channel. I recommend to people who want to paint figures, who have shown if you paint as Games Workshop tell you to paint on their boxes, you cannot recreate what they have said. This is how it was painted. They're lying, but they don't care because it's like it's not about it. It is about. It's almost like a cult. Honestly, I sell Chaos Black spray paint. Right, it's £12 a can. I sell Autotech matte black paint, which is twice the volume, for £11 a can.
And people will still buy Chaos Black.
All the Games Workshop people always buy Chaos Black. All the models and ask me what I recommend. I say, well, I use the Autotech, and they buy Autotech.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. You're talking about it. Because putting on my Apple hat, I'm Apple through and through. But that's because Apple as an ecosystem, it just works.
And that's what Games Workshop have sold to their buyers.
Yeah. But also with the Games Workshop, if I go to, because I was wondering whether you're going to flip over your shop to Warhammer.
No.
Because the shop in Tiverton is always busy. The shop in Tiverton's always busy for Warhammer stuff. But they don't, and the one in Exeter as well. But they don't just stock Citadel stuff. What I was saying was I'm seeing a lot of people buying the Vallejo game color stuff, which can be airbrushed.
They do gas brown.
Yeah, their metals. What was it? What's it called? The gunmetals and stuff. Is it A or is it 2? I haven't got some here. I haven't got any here.
What, the Games Workshop one or the Vallejo one?
The Vallejo one is bollock. It's brilliant. It's big bottles. Like it comes with
metal color.
The metal color. That's what I was talking about. Yeah, the metal colors. He sells tons of that, especially the purple one. He said because a lot of the robot purple, they reckon Citadel you can't do that. With this stuff because you can airbrush it and everything. It's a better paint. And I see his racks are just full of paints. And the other one he sells, which I didn't realize was so big, is Army Painter.
Yep.
Army Painter's massive now, isn't it?
But if you look at what Army Painter have done in the past 6 months, is they've reformulated all their paints, and their marketing is everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah. So they've done a huge push, just like Games Workshop, and they're showing you how to paint it like equivalent to Games Workshop. So they're really pushing on that whole social. They understand, and there's nothing wrong with emulation, right? That's how you be successful. Take a successful model and copy it, and that's what they're doing with the Army Painter stuff now. Yeah,
Army Painter primer is very good. Yeah, very impressed with their primer.
They've just brought out a whole range of historicals to go with like all the bolt action.
If you look at the Army Painter range, where it differs from Citadel, which is probably more relevant to us as model makers, is they do a lot of sort of World War II military type colours that Citadel do not do, because Army Painter are marketing it at the whole tabletop genre, whereas Citadel are very, very specific for their game systems.
Yeah. Here you go. This is a prime example for you. Umbro acrylic primer, 150 milliliters, £12.99. 400 Army Painter grey primer, £11.99. It's a no win. Yeah. And this uniform, this is good shit. Honestly, I've never used it on. I've only ever used this on my lorries and my cars, because I don't tend to work at my models as I do with the cars. With the cars and the lorries, it's normally I'm just doing the chassis, doing the body, and that's done. When it comes to the paint with the planes and stuff, because I've probably sanded bits and done some work to it, filled in some little bits, etc. I'll always go back to either the Outlaw paint or I've just been getting the 1500 surfacer in special bottles. I've bought these bottles with the bigger lids on to pre-mix them ready for when I want to start spraying. But yeah, this stuff here, if I was doing a figure, I'll probably jump on this and grab one of these and just give it a quick tug on that, spray it out. So yeah, Army Painter speed paint is better than contrast paint in my honest opinion.
Vallejo also do their own range of speed paint, contrast paint
called Vallejo Express or something like that.
Yeah, it's just it's a heavily pigmented wash. It's no more than that. But you can make your own. No, there's a channel called Goobertown Hobbies who tells you exactly how to make it.
I mean, obviously Alex is a chemist, and Citadel are very good at not putting all their ingredients on stuff.
Yes.
You can buy. This is a Citadel product called Contrast Medium. You can mix that with any acrylic paint and turn it into a contrast paint.
And that's for figure, is it? Is that for figures, is it?
Could be for anything. I use it on vehicles, I use it on aircraft, I use it on...
I find it works really well on tracks.
I just want...
This whole contrast paint, speed painting sort of thing that we've seen evolve over the last maybe 3 or 4 years, that's not unique. Games Workshop have jumped on it because they had to and released their contrast paint. But if you look at Warhammer TV, for example, and their studio painters, that is not how they paint.
No.
Just I'll just like AK to put this as a, instead of being in one of those, put this in a pot. You know what I mean? Well, you'd probably add just enamel to that, wouldn't you? I guess, and just thin it down and just make a little pot of it, wouldn't you, for Starship Field?
Yeah, odorless thinners, whatever.
Yeah. Some non-smelly thinners, enamel thinners.
Because that's how traditionally model makers would make a wash, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
oils have been around for a long time. It's just in vogue at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Funnily enough, actually, a lot of Games Workshop painters are espousing, oh, you can, do this much faster with an oil wash. It's like, no shit, Sherlock.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I took my army to a game, a proper game, because traditionally weathering then, it was 5-6 years ago, weathering wasn't a thing in Warhammer 40k. It wasn't a thing. But if you actually look at, because I'm a geek, if you actually look at the lore and the background of the game and the 41st millennium and it's war everywhere and everything's gone to shit. Well, of course, these Space Marines and their vehicles and everything, they're going to be dirty and they're going to be chipped and they're going to have bullet holes in them and all that. So I did that to mine right from the get-go because I've got the background, I suppose you could call it, in model making. So it wasn't alien. And people were amazed the first time I put that on the table because it looked more realistic, if that's the right term, than the cartoon style that they were very much used to. But now there's a thing where it's done, particularly in Warhammer 40k. It's just a thing now, and that's evolved over the last 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Weathering has become a thing. And like Alex said, you could do that with an oil wash. Yes, we know. We've been doing it for, you guys have been doing it for decades and decades.
It's like Back to the Future, isn't it?
Well, this is it. But surely then, so do you sell Citadel in your shop then now, Alex?
Sorry, say again?
Do you sell Citadel in your shop?
Yeah, it's part of what they call the foundation range. So you get
foundation range.
It's all their most commonly sold stuff.
So basically, it's got a higher price point than there's a higher price point than you've got Citadel on it, basically. Yeah, yeah. You can knock Games Workshop all you want, but they have got more young people into sticking together plastic kits than Airfix or Revell have in the last 20 years.
I don't think we're knocking Games Workshop.
No.
I think it's more the... they're a very successful company, let's put it that way. But a lot of that has come through marketing rather than... So Games Workshop, and this goes back, I guess, to that point we made before about passion. The people that used to run the company used to make minis, they used to play the games, because they came up with them. And that changed around 2000-ish, 2004 maybe. On the Games Workshop website, you used to be able to find massive amounts of articles on how to build terrain, how to create bases, how to do scenic pieces, how to paint this, that, and the other, all these things. And then there was a change and they took it all down and you couldn't find, there was nothing. And then they started bringing out scenic pieces. So there was a definite shift from that kind of more passion project that got really big to, okay, this is a money-making, profit-based company, you know?
Yeah. See, the thing is, though, is that I remember years ago that we all wanted Hero Quest as a board, Hero Quest from MB Games, whatever it was, right? None of us fucking painted those figures.
No.
We couldn't be asked. To. We just played them without the paint. That's what we did. I think we had to glue some of it together, but we just used super glue. But nobody ever painted Hero Quest. No one did.
That was extremely clever marketing. That's what that was. So Games Workshop at that time, so you're talking early to mid 90s, really. They realised, and just on that comment, absolutely, I'm not knocking Games Workshop. Over the last 6 years, I've probably spent in the region of £8,000 on Games Workshop. So I'm certainly not knocking them. I love them, and I use them all the time, and I build their stuff all the time. I love it. But what they realised, sort of early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, that it was a very niche hobby at that point. What they wanted to do was attract the mainstream. So the easiest way to do that, and we can all remember, is to team up with a mainstream board game manufacturer, loosely base it on. So there were two games that were released at that time. One was Hero Quest, which was loosely based on the Warhammer Old World game, loosely, and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay as it existed then. And there was another game called Space Crusade, which was again released around the same time, and that was loosely based on the Warhammer 40k universe and game system. What they did, and it was genius marketing, is because you could buy those games in Argos, you could buy those games in any toy shop, anywhere. Everyone got one for Christmas, then they told their mates, and then their mates wanted it, and it was genius marketing. And what it did, it captured quite a big percentage of people that had never delved into Games Workshop. And all of a sudden, then they released things like expansion sets for Space Crusade, expansion sets for Hero Quest. Then they released Advanced Hero Quest and Advanced Space Crusade. So the rules started to get a bit more complicated. There was a little bit of lore surrounding it, and people had to learn it. And all of a sudden, guess what? You've just attracted a whole new demographic into the Games Workshop universe. And that, it was genius, absolute genius. And the scenic pieces Alex talking about, that they used to show you how to make from cardboard and sticky back plastic, now they sell them. And that's one that's constructed, not painted. That's a piece that's painted. But they're not cheap. They are not cheap, and they go together in less than 20 minutes. So from a model builder's point of view, they're expensive, and if you had the time, you could scratch build them quite easily, or you can go out and spend £40-50 at a Games Workshop store or a retailer that sells Games Workshop stuff, and you can buy it all in a box, stick it together, it's done.
So there were some new releases coming out for Chaos Knights in the Warhammer 40k universe, right? Which I pre-ordered them. The pre-orders were open on Saturday. For these, for retailers, they'll come out in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. It includes a couple of sets of dice, right? So this are, I think they are 3, 6, 9. I think you get 27 dice. Just like 10mm 6-sided normal dice, 1 to 6. They're £20 for a cube of those. Because they're special, because they're chaos themed. I've ordered them. I know they will sell.
So here's my dice box, right? But in here, the type of dice. So the red ones that you can see, the normal 6-sided dice, they are what they are. This one, and there's some in here, the grey one, is what Alex is talking about. So that's a normal 6-sided dice. However, it's a particular colour, and it's got a particular emblem on one side. released by Citadel.
Is that Space Wolves one?
Space Wolves one, yeah.
That's bad. I
And,
know.
and they charge £20 for
Yeah.
12 dice.
Yeah.
But it's got a different symbol on it.
Yeah, and but I'm an idiot and I bought them because I play Space Wolves, so I want Space Wolf dice, don't I? Yeah, and that's just what people do. These objective markers, for example, which you use during the game, they're essentially thick cardboard discs. That's all they are, right? So what I can use as well is here we've got a bag of tiddlywinks, essentially, that were pence, right? But these are plastic, so you can use them as objective markers. These ones were £30.
Well,
The thick cardboard. These ones are less than £2, and I've got 4 times the amount.
Yeah, but I can do a real bargain because I've got brand new objective markers. They only came out Saturday. They're only £20 a set.
There you go.
And I'm selling them for 18.
Yeah.
So it's a gift. Get your orders in on the website.
People like me will buy them.
I think they're neoprene as well now.
Oh, nice.
Going back to
Get that red, then
all that a lady could want then.
see Wargame. There's going back to the old Wargaming. Then Celtic West said that to evolve out of Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. But for instance of like Rubicon models, what kind of wargaming is that? Then that's a completely different kind of wargaming, I guess.
Yeah, World War II and Vietnam.
Yeah. But I said, we got that game off Airfix. What's it called again? It was Battle of Britain.
Board game.
Board game.
Blood Red Skies.
Went over my head.
Blood Red Skies.
Right over my head. Went right over my head. That.
Well, they back in the day they used to do something called the Starfleet Tactical Simulator by FASA, which essentially was wargaming.
Yeah.
I think the issue with Airfix trying to break into that market.
That's what Airfix is Hornby.
Or Hornby.
Yeah.
That's an Airfix branded game, is it not?
What? Blood Red.
So Blood Red Skies already exists as
yeah.
They use much smaller scale.
Yeah, and their approach is completely different. Hornby's approach to breaking into wargaming is very, very different to companies like Games Workshop. They are purely and simply interested, and their customer base are interested in the game and the lore. They've got novels and they've got so much stuff. They've got a whole library of novels that you can read, talking book. It's so vast, and they own every single bit of it. So all the intellectual properties, theirs is genius.
Yeah. So from the retail point of view, the Black Library is actually it's like a separate division.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you want to do I could stock Black Library stuff as well. It's very successful, but it's a completely separate bit. But it is all that lore. It's people will argue about, elements and like the timeline of the Horus Heresy, for instance.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds very dramatic, but if you there's YouTube channels dedicated to this stuff.
Yeah.
But if you start to delve into it at its deepest level, there are people out there, and not one or two, vast numbers of people that treat this law and this timeline almost like a religion.
Yeah.
They study it and they know it, and they will argue and debate all day long about, and this is something that's made up. This is a gaming system. But it's so vast and so deep. If you go that far, it's people do treat it as, and then you get the whole cosplay side of it. It's vast, it's huge, but all the intellectual property is owned by them. All of it.
Yeah, all of it.
And that's why
they renamed
a company.
That's why they renamed Orcs Oryx.
Yeah,
because that is a copyrightable name.
Yeah,
and the Eldari instead of elves, because you can't trademark elves or orcs.
But then they played a blinder that when the Lord of the Rings trilogy of films was released, Games Workshop as a company got the franchise to produce the tabletop game based in the Lord of the Rings. And if you look at the spelling, it's different.
Really?
Oh, really?
It's different because they trademark it, but they own the franchise of Lord of the Rings tabletop game. They're geniuses. From a marketing point of view, they're brilliant. And that's why, I mean, you talk about model shows, some of the biggest shows, the US Nationals, Telford, Mosan, Scale Model Challenge, these big model shows, they pale into insignificance against things like Adepticon, Golden Demon, and all these things. And the prize money for these tournament players that you see on YouTube playing the game, and they live stream them and video them and whatever, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds in prize money.
Yeah.
And
there is a lot of stuff, I think, that traditional model companies like Airfix, like Revell, and others can learn from Games Workshop. I'll take my personal beef with Hornby, which is their business practices interacting with their retail outlets, completely different from Games Workshop. So Games Workshop, despite the fact they are really in direct competition with their independents, they don't actually compete in the same way. They don't discount their prices at all from the website. Their website prices are the website prices. That's it. There are no sales at Games Workshop. They allow your retailers to sell at whatever price you want. They give me a marketing budget. They actually support the shop. I get a marketing budget. It's just renewed. It renews every June to spend on Games Workshop stuff. They have some stuff which they don't sell to anybody else apart from retailers, painting stations and point of sale stuff and things. I can get a 2.1 meter Space Marine to have in the shop if I want. But they support the business because, of course, supporting me is supporting them. They invest in that distribution network. Can you imagine if Airfix or Hornby or Revell or whoever did that for the model networks in this country? All the small companies that have, model and railway shops that have folded, that complain about, it's difficult to do business with X company. If they're actually supported by them.
But it's really, really clever. So years ago, if you went into a store, it would be called Games Workshop. That's what their stores were called. They're not anymore. They're called Warhammer stores now. They rebranded them. But the cost, because they have a blueprint of how their stores should be. They have this blueprint. It's expensive. So in most town centres, for example, you won't see a Warhammer store because it's expensive from a business point of view for them to do that. But what they do, which is really clever, is they'll support the independent retailers to stock their products, market their products, so people can go there and buy Warhammer products. And they haven't got the cost implication of opening up a Warhammer store on the high street. It's really clever marketing. Really
because
clever.
a small marketing budget for me is a lot cheaper than paying somebody even one day a week to work.
Fundamentally, this is a way of adopting specialist retail systems. It's absolutely specialist retail in precisely the same way that, for example, Bang & Olufsen market themselves. It's exactly the same as how companies like Lerva used to market themselves in the TV marketplace. You give somebody a marketing budget, you provide them with a lot of collateral that they can use that is usable, and then you allow them to get on with doing the job in a sensible way, and you don't compete with them. And
I think actually that just brings us back sort of full circle to the original kind of premise of this of small companies. You do see some of the small companies doing that. I mean, I talk about ICM a lot because ICM have essentially supported the channel. I promote some of the stuff that they sell because they send me kits. If Airfix sent me kits or Revell sent me kits, I would review them in exactly the same way, but they don't. So I don't. I do what I think will be interesting at appropriate times, but there are 101 people that are going to do it anyway, so there's no priority for me to do it. Whereas small manufacturers, they can do that. Beacon can give out a couple of Messerschmitts and 109s to people to review.
Well, I mean, a good example of that is Galeri. When they launched, they sent pretty much every YouTuber an airbrush, a compressor.
Didn't bloody send me one.
A spray booth. Because that was for them, as I was saying, that's really good marketing.
Also,
really good marketing. And then people watch and go, I'll get one of those. The big boys, the Harder and Steenbecks, the Iwatas, they don't send products out very often for free.
Can I put a caveat to all this, lads? Can I put a caveat to all this? Right? They sent out all this stuff, good marketing, but not a lot of people trust Gallery because the YouTubers were given the brush to promote and then given the affiliate link. That's the problem you've got. There's no trust there. And I don't
know. I know a lot of people that went out.
I was going to say, do you have anything to back that up, though, Moss?
I do because when I started, originally when I was doing Airfix kits, now I buy all my kits. Everybody knows this. I'm the pre-order guy. I go straight on pre-order everything that comes through. When I put the affiliate link up first for the Airfix, so that I get a commission if I sell an Airfix kit. That's when people start, unless they watch a video and actually see the kit for themselves, they'll just say, or Moz will just say it's good because he gets an affiliate link for it. And a lot of people said the same about the Gallery stuff as well. That there's an affiliate link to it. You're getting commission. You're going to say it's good stuff.
And one can make that point with perfect facility, I think, and that's fair enough. But the point to be made in counter to that is that companies like Alex's can put their money where their mouth is. And when you go into Alex's shop, he has the stuff on the shelf, which means that he's made an investment in it. And that investment is there for all to see. In that way, manufacturers, particularly small manufacturers who approach people like Alex, know that if they succeed in selling the product, they get an immediate effect from that. And that the principle of going to small companies or smaller companies and talking to independents is that they are owner operators and they make decisions very quickly because they're very agile. Word that Alex will know well, I'm sure. But that is the reason.
Personally, obviously.
Well, I've seen you. Don't worry, I've seen you in person, and I will still come in your shop even though you haven't got dog shit brown or whatever it was. But nevertheless,
you might not recognise Sinners because he might be in a black robe wearing his druidic symbols and that. So.
I often go abroad at night in my druidic symbols. Yes, I'm well known for it.
Yeah.
I just had a comment there. I'm just going to say, I appreciate that, Jim, because that's what I tried to do when I did the compressor. For that, I thought for me, if you were wanting to not invest in a big, huge tank compressor, I think the Gallery's option is very, very good. But I did say at the time, compressor, fantastic. The airbrush that came with it, I would swap it out for a higher end Gallery airbrush, or But I said I got Gallery brushes here. I use them, but I always revert back to my Harder and Steenbeck. I don't know. But I will say.
And for that reason, your point stands on its own. No question about that. It's perfectly reasonable and fair to make that point.
But when it comes to Airfix stuff, they're like, just a fanboy. Put out the issues and everything that I found on these kits, and be honest, and it's just, it just come very much like it. So I'm not going to deny it. The only problem I got with the Gallery airbrush, that's my view on it, is that their top end one at about 70 quid
Yeah.
I put that against my Fenger 186K at £29, and they're exactly the same. The Fenger one is just it's a for £29. The Fenger airbrush is quality.
Yeah, it is for 29.
The gallery are charging £80, and I have to be honest with that. And when I said that, I've not heard from gallery since.
No.
You know?
That's their choice.
If you're talking about airbrush use, that is very, very specific to the individual. So I use gallery. I don't use them for detail painting.
No,
I don't think they're that capable as an airbrush, but for base colors, base camouflage, priming, they're great at that price point. I have to disagree. I don't think the top end gallery brush is the same as the Fenger, because I use both, and I don't think it's the same. You can do
that 18K, that 186K.
Yeah, I've got them down here.
Really, because I this one here, I when I'm doing priming and stuff, it's fantastic. And as I said to you, and I keep saying it, when I pull back and find that biting point, it's fucking there. Gallery is all over the shop. The biting point changes. I don't know why.
But in your opinion, as the end user,
I've heard it from about 8 or 9 other people now that the gallery airbrush.
It's so personal. It's so personal.
Yeah.
I don't have that issue with gallery airbrushes. Never have had, and I could.
I think if you start using, if you start realizing it, you'll see it. I think if we start doing it, you'll realize it's there.
So I had a guy in the shop today asking about, do you stock airbrushes? And I say, I don't stock airbrushes in the shop. And for exactly what Luke said, I said, the thing is, it's such a personal experience. I can give you my experience. I can let you try my airbrushes. I got an airbrush in the shop. Actually, it's Glary. Well, I got Glary and Fenger. I got a Harder and Steenbeck, which I absolutely loathe. In complete contrast to you, boss, because it is, and it's not that you're right and I'm wrong, or I'm right and you're wrong. It's just, I got a Badger 150, an old Badger 150. It's actually a copy of a Badger 150. It's must be 30 odd years old now. It's great. It's absolutely fantastic brush.
So personal.
It is such a personal thing.
I think what Gallery did is it's not so they didn't aim their airbrushes at the top end of the market.
No,
because of their price point. You can go out and spend £500, £600, £700 on a top line Iwata, top line Harder and Steenbeck. You can. Ask me how I know. I don't use them. But that wasn't Gallery's intention.
No.
The Gallery's intention was to get the name being talked about.
Name out there, that's right.
Whether it be good or bad, you see what I'm saying? There's no such thing as bad PR.
Jim's put his hand up. Go on, Jim.
I think another thing, and then it correlates with the quality that we were talking about earlier, big manufacturer, small manufacturer, games workshop pieces, they're gaming pieces first. Rubicon, those are game pieces first, they're models second. Same thing with airbrushes. We're using them for something that they're probably really not designed for. They can be used for what we use them for. But at the end of the day, who are buying airbrushes? It's not modelers. It's the artists that are doing murals. It's the car painters that are doing detail work on car parts. And that's where they make their money. We're just there's a Facebook page out there from a guy here in the States that's trying to get Iwata to notice modelers. They're like, what? You use them for that?
Well,
so
how many people
have done that, Jim, haven't they? I think Harder and Steenbeck have gone certain ways because you've got that Gibberays. Is it Gibberays? What's it called?
Giraldo's.
That's the guy. Yeah, I think of a football player there. They brought out one which he's for miniatures, isn't he? He does a lot of and also, but it's a crap airbrush, to be honest. I don't like it.
Not being funny, the first airbrush I was aware of was Harder and Steenbeck.
Yeah,
because they had adverts in all the model railway magazines.
Yeah,
and it used to be, Badger used to be everywhere.
Yeah.
But how many modelers have heard of Pash or De Vilbliss? You know, but
I've heard airbrush.
They're much better quality airbrushes than most that we will find in our industry.
Look at that.
De Vilbliss.
De Vilbliss.
Yes, I've heard of Matt Pash because Terry Little History uses a Pash.
Yeah, look at that.
Look at the state of that.
I know.
That's what we were talking about.
I mean, the Galeri thing is. I don't know anybody in the UK here. Do you remember when Hyundai were first marketed in the UK? Nobody had ever heard of Hyundai.
No.
It was just like, who the hell is Hyundai? They were everywhere on TV. They did a huge marketing campaign. They were giving 7-year warranties. They were showing, like, basically their standard models were spec the same as top line models for basically all of the manufacturers.
Yes, we remember the Hyundai Pony.
Yep, they had, well, this was, people remember some people remember the Hyundai Pony. This was after that. But it was just like they were there to get the name in exactly the way that Luke said about Galeri. They established themselves as a recognizable name because people were like, well, this is a deal we can't afford not to at least look at. And then they got the reputation of, oh, actually, they stand by that warranty as well. No quibble. Actually, my Hyundai is really good. I get really good. So you build up that, thing. And now, do you get a 7-year warranty? Do you get all this stuff? Or are they an established manufacturer just like everybody else? They're the latter. Where they wanted to get. So.
I would, as I said, I would like. Would Gallery be around in 5 years' time? I know the people. I think you got that. It's like Iwata. Oh, by the way, Hard and Steenbeck are owned by Iwata now, which I think you mentioned that, Jim, didn't you? You mentioned that to us.
You see, get better.
Like I said, I do like the Iwata airbrush, apart from that shitty nozzle at the end. You've got to use a fucking spanner to get it off. Howard and Steenbeck is all in one. It's a twist thing. Twist it off, out it comes. Beautiful. And that's the difference. That's why I like Iwata, because it's easier to clean my Howard and Steenbeck than it is my
You know how much that tiny little bit at the end is? Moss? It's 30 fucking quid. Ask me how I know.
Yeah.
I can say
no bitterness here, of course.
No.
As far as the Harder and Steenbeck brushes, I have 2 of them. They're both the same. It's the Ultra, and I use one at 0.2 and one at 0.4. I haven't really had, beyond a tendency for those brushes to catch paint on the edge of the outer protective rim, which you just wipe off, after every couple of minutes or so. They seem to work pretty well. But then, to be honest, I've absolutely nothing to compare them against because I've had both of them for 4 years. They've provided very good results in terms of I press the button and paint pops out of the other end.
To be fair, sometimes, cotton's fine if you've never worn silk. So.
Yeah.
I'm quite comfortable with that. That's not a problem at all. It's as I said, it's at some stage I may try another one, but I mean, in terms of you'll not thank me for this, but in terms of compressors, I've got this little 25 quid square box with a red button on it that makes a bit of a noise.
That's all you need. That's all because
all you're doing is blowing dry air through a bloody hose.
That's the thing. I always say to people, if you've got one of those switch on, switch off compressor out of tank, get the longest hose you can, because the tank is the hose, if you know what I mean. So if you do got one of them, just get, because then but like I was saying, it is a much. But all I'm going to say is that apart from Alex, because Alex goes against the grain, if you've got a Harder and Steenbeck airbrush or an Iwata airbrush, and you try Gallery, you end up going back to your Harder and Steenbeck because you've had the best, and now you got this. And I still don't understand the gravity fed one, not gravity fed, the the one with the pot underneath. What do they call it?
I've heard plenty of people who hate Harder and Steenbeck. I think one thing I've noticed with H&S is they seem to be a real Marmite sort of
yeah.
airbrush. You
Like,
either
I
really like
thought,
them,
yeah.
or you really don't. Because it's
I
the
like
way they
iWater.
engineer some of the internal
Yeah.
components, especially in the end of the nozzle.
Yeah, I mean, it's
You got another one here. Lee Barrett, I prefer my Fenga 186K over my Iwata Neo, but the Iwata Neo isn't Iwata. It's a Chinese one that Iwata put there. You know,
and when the Iwata Neo was first released, and yes, it's not a true Iwata airbrush.
Yeah.
It is a Chinese manufactured airbrush with an Iwata badge on it. When it was first released in the UK at around about the £50 mark,
yeah,
that was a good airbrush at that price point. However, what has happened is over recent years the price has crept up, so now you'll pay £100 or almost £100 for the same airbrush.
About 80 quid now, Luke, for that Ultra.
There are much better options at that price point than the Iwata Neo.
Yeah, because when the Neo first came out, the comparable brushes were like pushing £100, weren't they?
Yeah.
So it was a real game changer when they first came out. People bought them in droves.
Yeah. But now it's at the same price point as those other brushes. People will go for those other brushes.
Yeah.
I can actually get three Iwata Neos.
Yeah. Harder's got the new Ultra, which I would recommend to anyone with the dial on the back. I think that's a really clever introduction because you've got your three, your needle, you got your priming, close up. But again, price point 120 quid. And this is what I mean. The problem is that you just can't buy. If you're a newbie, you can't buy just the airbrush. You've got to buy the compressor as well. That's the problem. And as I said, if you want a compressor, go on the channel and that Fenga, or they call it a different name now, isn't it? It's not called Fenga. What's the new name for it? Is it Air something? Airgoo. I got one there. It's a fantastic compressor. It's 88 quid. But if you had a budget of 150, I would recommend go for the most expensive compressor you can. Get the most expensive airbrush you can afford with the compressor, and match it up if you can. But remember, you can always upgrade your airbrush. With the compressor, there's no need for upgrading. Once you've got it, you've got it. So you can just carry on upgrading. But so that it is what it is, isn't it? It's personal. You speak to Nigel, he'll be one an Iwata. He loves his Iwata. And to be fair, I enjoyed mine, but I wasn't. When I broke it, it was the biggest fuck off Iwata moment in my life because I didn't turn it that hard. I pinched it, went up, shred. I was fuming. I was like, I threw it again, and I couldn't repair it myself. I had to send it away to get it repaired. Expensive. Then Harder and Steenbeck came along with that one twist, everything all comes apart, and hallelujah, it was a hallelujah moment for me. I can get rid of that little spanner but the Iwata, but before I broke it, it was a beautiful brush.
I don't think I've ever used a little spanner supplied with an airbrush, if it's needed. I just get like a little pair of grips.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I get that.
I bought the Iwata tool set.
Did you?
You're the one.
Like Alex said, cutting spine and two.
The Warhammer people told me to.
How they've dropped the price of the Ultra 20. The new 2024. They've dropped the price to £80.
Yeah, but that's where opinion will always differ. So you would absolutely recommend that to a beginner who's
the Ultra
for the first time. I absolutely wouldn't.
No.
Well, the Ultra's the Ultra's their introductory brush.
It's taken out the learning process of learning where that bind point is, learning the trigger pressure, the muscle memory that you develop by using an airbrush where you don't turn a dial. So for a beginner, although it's like skiing and snowboarding,
Yeah.
To learn the basics of snowboarding is much easier than learning the basics of skiing. Once you know the basics, you get much better at skiing much quicker than you do at snowboarding.
Yeah, but you've just gone against your point then, Luke.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, because when you get a bike, you have stabilizers, and you take the stabilizers off, and away you go. But like every brush now, whether it's a big dial at the front or a little dial at the back, they've all got that. Instead of it going 1, 2, 3, it's just got numbered primer, glossing, varnish, I think it is, or something like that.
That airbrush doesn't have that.
This one,
Yeah.
look, from the back.
None of the brushes I have that.
No. However, what you will learn with this brush
to stop the needle
is
from
you
going back.
will learn the muscle memory of the bite point. You'll learn how far to pull the trigger back. You'll learn how much air you need. You'll learn how to thin your paint properly.
No. This bit here at the back, that stops the needle going back, doesn't it? Right. But all the ultras, they instead of put it there, they put it here. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah, great. But I wouldn't recommend that to a beginner. I'd recommend that because you have to learn how to use an airbrush because it doesn't have that facility.
Okay. May I?
Yeah.
Raising my hand. So, to what you guys have been saying. So this is not a flex. Okay, this is a custom microphone. So
nice.
So it's got the numbered little thing on the back, right? It's just a limiter. Okay, and to say 1 for this, 2 for this, 3, no. All this does is if you're doing fine lines and you're down there and you don't want to trust your hand to pull back too far and go all over your, piece of work, you're gonna dial that in. All this is a safety measure. Okay. Back it, you do it on a test piece. Okay, I don't want to go any more than this. I'm getting right where I need to be with my line. You set your screw in the back, and now you're not going to be able to pull it any farther. Okay, that's all that's for. Okay, and so all the numbers are is just to gauge about how far back you're set your limit to pull your needle back from.
And as Luke said, that's exactly why I wouldn't ever recommend that to a beginner. I would find that highly limiting. If I'd used that when I was learning airbrushing, I wouldn't know. What I know
because basically
you develop that skill anyway, don't you? That's what
because it's like, okay, so you get your mix wrong and you get tip dry. One of the ways to get rid of that, you find out, is you pull right back and you blast a load of shit through.
What I'm trying to get is that every gallery brush has got that number. Every gallery brush has got that thing at the end. That's what I'm trying to get at.
But I wouldn't recommend that to a beginner.
What's a gallery? Even the gallery ones?
No, not to a beginner.
You get rid of the gallery then. Every single gallery brush has that stopper on the back.
If you want to learn to be proficient at airbrushing, what you need to learn is muscle memory. How far you pull that trigger back, how much air you need for that particular effect that you're attempting. If you're taking that away, as Jim said, with a limiter to a beginner who's never picked up an airbrush before, they're missing out on learning all that muscle memory, all that skill of using their finger to do it. Later on, like Jim's custom micron, if you upgrade and now instead of spending £20 on a kit, you're spending £200 on a kit because you've been doing it a while, you don't want to splurt paint all over your £200 model. You're going for a very subtle effect. That's where that comes into play because it won't allow you to do it. But Jim has spent decades and decades using an airbrush without the limiter. So he already has that technique. He already has that muscle memory. It's like I have sat-nav in my car, but I know how to read it.
It's a safety. It's all it
but
is.
What I'm trying to get at is that you're saying this about, I wouldn't recommend the Ultra, but every gallery brush have got those dials at the back. So you wouldn't recommend those to a beginner either. But then the Fender's got them as well. They've all got them, just that the Ultra one's at the front.
No, they haven't, because it's not a brush I would recommend to a beginner.
All right.
The brush I would recommend to a beginner is where you've got to learn that skill set.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. No, I'm just saying that was the reason with the Ultra. They just moved it to the front, not to the back. But every gallery brush has got one.
Yeah. Well, every Iwana brush they have one too. If you buy the limiting handle.
Yeah, I've got 3 gallery brushes here. But what I'm saying is that it's not the airbrush that I would recommend to a beginner. Because I think it's important as a beginner, if you want to become proficient at it, it's important to learn the technique. It's important to learn the muscle memory. It's important to learn that technique. Now, if someone's put a comment in the chat that they have arthritis in their hands, the exception doesn't disprove the rule.
Yeah.
So if someone who's got arthritis in their hands says to me, I really want to try airbrushing, then I'm going to recommend an airbrush with a limiter. Yeah. Because it enables them to airbrush to a certain standard that they're happy with and takes into account the fact they have arthritis in their hands.
Probably
if someone says to me, I really want to try airbrushing and I don't have arthritis in my hands, then I'm not going to recommend an airbrush with a limiter, because it's important at that stage of their journey for them to learn the technique.
All right, then, Luke.
What's happened in recent years is that's been taken away.
Also, the other thing I will say, the reason I would recommend the Ultra airbrush to a beginner, it's so easy to clean. It is one twist, out it comes. The gallery one, you've got to split it into 4 different pieces. So you've got to look at that side of it up anyway. It's
absolutely.
It's an important skill.
It's whether someone wants to learn how to clean and maintain an airbrush, or whether they want to learn how to clean and maintain an Ultra.
Again, because it's a big rabbit hole, this, isn't it? Anyway, by gallery, they're really good.
It's a separate topic.
Yeah, here we have gallery. No, I just said I showed what I thought of the gallery compressor and the airbrush. Don't get me wrong, I've used the gallery. I've still got the one there which has got the 0.5 needle in, and I've used that for matte coating. I think it's a very good airbrush. You know, I just end up going back when I'm doing normal painting and stuff. I go back to my harder every single time. And it's a 2mm, but it's good. You know, this is what it's all about, isn't it? Everybody has a different way of doing everything. You cut masking tape different to how I cut masking tape. You probably wipe front to back, and I wipe back to front. You know what I mean?
And we probably use completely different brands of masking tape.
Yeah, exactly.
It's personal.
Their own.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
You want to get modelers fired up, discuss olive drab, hands are gray, where the yolk is on a turret red, and airbrushes.
Yeah. It's great. I love it. Anyway, folks, it's gone 10 o'clock. Wow, we've gone till 10 past 10. Thanks, everyone, for joining. I'd say the Ultra is trying to avoid frustration that can put a newbies off. Fair enough. I know you've got one. Let me know you got one with it. I love mine. I gave it sold it on to somebody. I got it for review. Thought it was a fantastic bit of kit, and but thanks everyone for joining us tonight in the chat panel. Thanks again. We'll be back next Monday for another Airfix and Chill. And anyone who's around tomorrow night, I will be doing my members only live stream running from 8 o'clock. Anyways, thanks all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Take care. Bye for now.